say, in an inflationary market.
But then, so in terms of the level of detail, then, and making that disaggregation of the numbers, we'll be able to achieve that under the new methodologies. We'll be able to say this is the amount cost saving, this is the amount cost avoidance, and it won't be lumped together into a single figure.
That is exactly how we will be reporting in the future.
Okay, that's very helpful. Because when you look at the table 14.3, and you look at stationery, paper, and envelopes, 2011 estimate 1.4 million, and 2012 projections 1.4 million. They're exactly the same figure, and that just looks a bit strange. That would be saving the exact same amount on stationery, paper, and envelopes in 2 years. I mean, if it's a one-off saving that we've made in 2011, are we counting it again in 2012?
So I assume maybe demand is remaining static for those items.
And would that be clarified then as a cost saving?
Cost avoidance.
Cost avoidance. Okay. So you see then, yeah, okay. And in relation then, if we look at just the paragraph above that, 1415, there's a statement here from the CNAG. In the OPW's vote estimate for 2012, it reported NPS savings achieved on existing public service contracts of 28.2 million in 2011. In addition, it stated that there were further administrative savings, but these were not quantified or valued. I'll just find that.
Some of these savings are on other votes, so we wouldn't be reflecting on our vote if I'm understanding the question.
Okay.
Not to have double counting.
Yeah.
So that we have to be careful, and in fairness, the savings methodologies are going to have to take account of that, because the actual sum of it is because of cost avoidance by accounting officers in deciding maybe not to purchase. So, but also we have to be careful not to be double counting. So,
okay, so you'll say that saving was achieved, but you're not going to provide a figure because it's going to appear elsewhere.
Yeah, it could be. Okay. It's reflected on another vote.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Moving on then to page 191 and paragraph 14.19 with figure 14.4 is looking at energy savings. And if we look at the review of tariffs and import capacity levels, attributed saving 4.2 million. MPS methodology, comparison of existing tariffs and charges on a metre-by-metre basis to identify more economical tariffs. Reviews of 12,000 metres identified potential savings of 2.1 million. The same level of saving was anticipated for a further 12,000 metres, which the MPS planned to review in 2011. Were these savings made?
Well, this is where the actual savings made are a matter within the contracting authority, the actual ultimate state buyer, because this is where we are advising that based on our looking at meters and the usage, that people are on the wrong tariffs. So they could be on a lower tariff. So we advise them of that, but it is their contract with the supplier, so they have to kind of follow up on that. We have had a difficulty getting that information, but based on what we had and our expert, our analysis was that it was in that order. But did it realise? That was dependent, and I would have presumed all of them would have been exercised to get that saving to actually give effect to changing the tariff. It is not done centrally, because these are 24,000 individual metres.
I think that's the key question. Was it realised? Because it's not a saving if it wasn't realised. It's just a figure on a paper saying we could save this.
Yeah.
So whose responsibility is to verify that the actual saving was realised?
Well, it'll be a joint responsibility, I would suggest, between the contracting authority, or the buyer, and the Office of Government Procurement, ultimately, to actually confirm this. But both will need to be working. So it is about having the data to enable this to be verified. So I just...
actually confirmed this saving was actually achieved in 2011.
No, and this is the point that the controller has made. But we would have expressed this to the buyers, that this is something they should change, because there was a benefit, a real benefit accruing to them if they made this change.
So I'm just curious then, on the government books for 2011, does it say we saved 4.2 million in our energy savings?
No. No, in the government books as such. What it is what you're seeing on the government books is what was spent.
Mm-hmm. So when you then report, though, as the OPW, about the savings that you achieved in 2011, or that were achieved through the work of the MPS, and you report 4.2 million in energy savings,
We are saying this
that
is
actually were savings.
based on this is what we are estimating the savings, yeah.
But we can't verify that it's
Can't,
actually
yeah.
realised.
Yeah.
So it goes back to the initial point
Yeah.
that I was saying is
Yeah.
how reliable these figures are as to actual
Yeah.
savings at all.
But, sorry, I take your point, but there is no accounting officer who if advised that there is something, by changing something, they could get a saving on their vote, which would let them undertake other work. You know, so
We hope.
we would hope.
Right, but we have to
Yeah.
confirm that information if we're actually going to declare
And
it
this
as
is
a saving that was achieved through the MPS.
And this is what we're looking to move to, is using actual data, verifying.
I think that's a particularly important
Yeah.
point in
Yes.
terms of, you know, the validity of the figures
Yeah.
that we're actually talking about. Thank you. And then moving on then to the e-tenders, 14.22 is a paragraph. The e-tendering idea is instead of advertising in 3 papers, say for certain tenders, you would do it centrally through a website, through engaging SMEs online. How many SMEs are actually engaged?
We have something like 89,000. 89,000.
And do we have that as as a percentage of the total figure of SMEs in the country? Do we know?
I'm advised there are approximately 232,000 SMEs
And we've 89,000 of them on e-tenders.
registered on e-tenders, yes.
It's not a huge percentage of SMEs.
Well, we would have
SMEs, they would be active in the market, those 88,000.
Okay.
we engage with ISME, the Small Firms Association. We have had various through Intertrade workshops where we have meet the buyer events. We have engaged, I think, with something like 4,500 SMEs in relation to making sure of providing them with information of what it means to do business with the state and how we can help them, and in relation to the documentation, and trying to take some of the probably necessary but the compliance procedures and the legal things around it and how they can engage. That's a constant work in the NPS, to actually engage, to get more people actively tendering and communicating. And in fairness, on the e-tenders, what it does is it alerts. If there's something of interest to an SME, you are alerted of a competition, so you don't have to be constantly watching for it. So
You only supply the documentation once, isn't that it?
Yes, in relation
Previously,
to
you had to
certain-
each time prepare the papers and get them through, and that was a
certain
hassle for
elements.
businesses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is a great
Yeah.
thing. But then when
Yeah.
we're talking about e-tenders and how it's saving the state money.
Yeah.
We look at, in 2011, 6,120 contracts were advertised on the site, and that there was an estimated annual saving by this of 11.8 million from the use of the site. And you do that by saying that, well, each of those contracts would have been advertised in 3 newspapers, and that's the saving we achieve. But would each of those contracts actually been advertised in 3 newspapers? Do we do that for every single contract, regardless of the amount?
Well, we do, and I take the controller's point in relation to this. He says that's maybe we're being generous in relation to that. But it would be a lot of ads are actually in local newspapers as well. They're national newspapers and then they're local, because depending on it, and this would be very much the case for local authorities. So they would do both. So we have said it's not unreasonable for us to say that it's 3. It's in relation to 3.
And you take a standard cost then of advertising in
Yes,
newspapers, regardless
yes.
of local or national,
Yeah.
and you apply that across the 6,000
Yes.
plus.
We have through the National Procurement Services, the ad for state advertising in the newspapers is run through the National Procurement Service. So they get a particular rate in relation to those ads, and that's the rate we've used for doing this saving.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you hope that averages out then, depending on whether it's a national or a local, between
Yeah,
different
yeah,
contracts.
yeah, because you do more if there was local.
And then at what point do you stop calculating that as a saving?
Yes, this is a question which will arise as to at what point, because which or whether you're legally obliged to advertise. So even in whatever year, you're obliged to advertise. The advertising now is being done through e-tenders. So there is a question: how long do you show this? But if you don't have e-tenders, you're still going to have to advertise.
Yeah.
So whether and how that should be reflected, I think that's a question we're asking. Yeah.
Do we know when we'll get an answer? Thank you. Do we know when we get an answer?
Well,
I mean,
sorry, I think it is.
2012, 2013?
This is the strategy in relation to how we are defining savings, which is.
Yeah, we'll be looking at how we measure between multi-year and what is in-year, because obviously it comes back to the point around what impacts the budgets in a given year. If you save something once, typically you take that saving forever. So it's you know, certainly from a budgetary perspective, you know, when the money comes out of the budget, it generally doesn't go back in the following year to come back out again. So typically, while the benefit persists, you take it from a budgetary perspective only once. But again, coming back to the standardisation, the methodology, we are going to look at how we measure those savings and over what periods of time.
Because I would take it as, if you're calculating the saving there, you calculate the number of new contracts advertised between 2010 and 2011, not the total figure each year that's not being advertised, because it's counting the same money or lack of money.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay. Am I out of?
Yeah, I'm conscious of your time.
Yeah, sorry, no, I'll conclude on that point then.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Deputy Donoghue.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and you're all very welcome. Thank you for coming in. Deputy Murphy's covered off